Good afternoon, everybody. Hi there. I'm Anthony, Programming Manager here at Arts Quest, lead programmer of these Frank Banco Whalehouse Cinemas. Welcome to our Music Industry and Education Conference, our first year doing this. So good afternoon. Please join me in welcoming Gerard Longo, founder and CEO of Underground Music Collective, UMC, a transformative Nashville-based platform for music education and multimedia. For over a decade, UMC has empowered thousands in the music industry through content, live experiences, and the UMC Academy coaching program. Under Gerard's leadership, UMC has partnered with top brands like Universal Music Group and Red Bull, while his insights have graced iHeartRadio, Fox News Digital, and more. His media prowess has amplified events from Americana Fest to Musikfest. I've also known him for 10 years and can just say he's an all-around great dude. So please join me in welcoming Gerard Longo.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Thank you all for being here as well. Really excited to be here. Honored to be a part of this first ever conference here at Musikfest. The team at Arts Quest always does a great job, and they're doing a great job here again today. So Anthony gave me an intro, but this is just your required slide about who I am, what I do. I am the founder of Underground Music Collective, as Anthony mentioned. I'm also the host of the Quinn Spin podcast, which has been going 11 years strong this month. You can find that on your streaming platforms. And I'm the co-founder of Nash Live, which is a live entertainment and music experience based out of Nashville. We also do events elsewhere, including right out on the Levitt stage this past June. And since we're here at Musikfest, I should also mention that I am known around here as the North Side Sheriff. I am our event staff supervisor on the North Side. So after this, if you find yourself over there over the course of the next 10 days, find me in my bucket hat and say hi. And yeah, just some things that I've done, media I've appeared on, partners that we've worked with, just to give you an idea of the platform, its scope, and how it's grown. So first question I have for you, why do I have a picture of a forest here? Any guesses?
Because it's really hot out and it'll feel cool in the fall.
Yeah. Those are some nice fall colors. That's a good guess. The reason I have a picture of a forest here, though, is because when a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, what happens? Yeah, it doesn't make a sound. Exactly. If nobody's around to hear it, you're not going to hear the tree fall. And the same thing goes with your music. If you haven't taken the effort to put your music out into the world via media, via performance opportunities, by collaborating with partners and sponsors, and of course by reaching your audience, that's a very important part, then your impact is going to be limited. The scope of what you do as an artist, as a creative, as a brand and a platform is going to be very limited. And the fact is, opportunities to build your platform, connect to your audience are not just going to find you. There's legwork that we must do as creatives to raise awareness and to stand out in a highly saturated market. If you were at Dr. Barker's keynote yesterday, he mentioned how more people are making music than ever before. And that trend is only going to continue. I think it was upwards of 1 billion music producers by 2030, which means it's more important than ever to distinguish yourself from everybody else in your field. And so that's a lot of what we're going to cover here today. So you can build relationships with industry tastemakers, including media outlets, of course, blogs, podcasts, radio outlets, the like, talent buyers, promoters, like the ones who book this festival every year and do such a great job doing it, potential partners, sponsors, brands that you might want to work with, and of course, doing this while keeping in mind your authentic artist-to-audience connection. And so we start then by delivering two harsh yet simple truths that you may, if you're fresh to the industry, may be shocked, maybe even a little dismayed to hear. The first harsh yet simple truth is that being a good musician is not enough. Now, that said, with respect to all of the talent in the room, I know some of you personally, a lot of really talented artists here in the room today, and I know that firsthand. However, there are thousands, if not millions of people on earth with musical talent or with the inclination toward music and creativity to where if they applied that inclination and that talent, they could make a run at this thing, at least go out and get some paying gigs, right? So that leads me to harsh yet simple truth number 2. You must give people a reason to care. Cass, I'm going to call on you since I know you. Who's one of your favorite artists?
Brandi Carlile.
What is it about Brandi Carlile?
Her raw authenticity.
So you feel a connection to something in particular about her, right? Something that goes beyond the music. So that's the case with most, if not the vast majority of our fandoms, right? It's not just the music. It's not just the sound. It's not just a particular trend that is going to keep us there. Yeah, we might hear something on the radio. We might hear something in streaming, a song in a movie or a TV show commercial that hooks us. But the things that draw us to the artists that we gravitate toward, keep coming back to over time, are the things that connect us to them. One artist who does a better job of this than perhaps anybody in history is Taylor Swift. Just got done with the Eras tour, right? And she's gone through so many different eras of her artistry, and it's not necessarily that she's the most gifted musician to ever live. But what she's the greatest of all time at, in my opinion, is her ability to connect to her audience, to meet them where they are, and to connect with them, right? To develop these relationships where people feel a part of her story. She keeps her existing fans there while continuing to generate new ones, and that's why she's able to sell out stadiums all over the world. Another one, and Ronnie's going to like this one, is Bon Jovi, right? Came out of the 80s hair metal era, right? But evolved their sound. And throughout, no matter what their sound, no matter what moment their music was serving, kept that hardworking, blue-collar Jersey ethos. And if you've been following lately, they're more relevant than they've been in years. Just released that Thank You Goodnight documentary, just released an album, just opened a honky tonk in Nashville, which unfortunately I haven't been to yet, but when I get back, best believe I'll be going. The point is, as an artist, you need to find something about you that connects to your audience, and that needs to come from within. And of course, it's easy to list these things, right? The things that you've done or will be doing, your upcoming projects, of course, your prior releases, of course, your streaming and social metrics, any notable credits as far as who you've worked with, any sync placements, chart appearances, awards, all the accolades, right? Any career milestones. Of course, we bake that all into our artist bios, the things that we put out there about ourselves to market ourselves, to brand ourselves. But it's not quite that simple. It doesn't stop there, because we all must answer this question as well. Who are you? At your core, what about you is going to connect and leave that lasting impact with your audience? And so, it starts with 3 simple letters. V, M, V. If you've seen my poster out there, you might already know what this means, but just in case you haven't. The first V stands for values, your core beliefs, core ideas, the guiding principles which give purpose to your mission. What have you experienced, and how does that inform the impact you want to have in the world? Of course, we move to the mission, which is, what have you been put on earth to do? What problem are you here to solve, right? Because as artists, we can solve problems through our art, through our messages, through the ways we communicate and impact and inspire other people. And of course, the vision is how that mission appears in the world in real time. What does that look like? What does that sound like, feel like? How is the world left better for it being in the world? And so it's all about that audience connection, right? And it starts with the values and building those values into the mission, into the vision. But as a musician, as an artist, what's the first thing, or one of the first things that you need to actually make that connection? Music. You need music. You need music written. You need music recorded. You need to be performing. You need to be out in the world, right? People need to know that you're an artist. And so not only does this music, does this product, for lack of a more eloquent term, need to uphold the ethos of your platform, the VMV, but it's also your sonic business card. It's also your introduction to new people. It's the first pass that people will have interacting with you, interacting with your VMV, and interacting with what you bring to the table, right? And so not only does it need to uphold the values, the mission, the vision, but it also needs to hold up alongside the work of your contemporaries. So what does that mean? Does your songwriting, does your production hold up alongside the most successful artists in your genre? Because as original artists, as emerging artists, You're not competing with Uncle Joe's cover band down the street. You're competing with the people who are at the top of your genre. If you're a pop artist, you're competing with the Lady Gagas for market share, the Taylor Swifts of the world, Beyoncé's of the world. And if you're a country artist, you're competing with Beyonce now too, right? So a way to see where you're at in this process is to put it to the test. Listen to one of your songs right up next to one of theirs. Notice if there's a drop-off in songwriting quality, in lyricism, in production value, and if you'd like to put that in someone else's hands for feedback as well, you know plenty of industry professionals you've been meeting throughout this conference, right? Producers, sync agents, people with ears, your fellow artists who can give you that valuable real-time feedback and can give you ideas of how you can take it from here to there, right? And it's important in this process to keep an open mind to change. Nothing we ever do as creatives is perfect on the first try. As a matter of fact, nothing's ever perfect anyway. It's all a process. What we do as creatives, it's the growth journey. It's a process of creating and iterating and making it a little better every time. So just because you might not feel you're there yet doesn't mean you can't get there, and doesn't mean what you're doing isn't already pretty good. And so while you're developing that, while you're making those measurements and adjustments, it's also important to develop the value that your audience will get from listening. Of course, rooted in the VMV concept that we talked about before, right? What is your value proposition? And if you don't know what a value proposition is, think of it this way. I'm going to read this twice just in case any of you want to write this down. To create your value proposition, answer this question. What can your audience get from you that they won't find anywhere else? I'll say that again. What can your audience get from you that they won't find anywhere else? How are you setting yourself apart from everyone else competing for market share? I've got a couple examples, and as a matter of fact, the first one I'm going to pick on myself, because this used to be ours. The top one used to be our mission statement, way before I designed this course. Underground Music Collective is a music blog based in Nashville, Tennessee. Cass, I'm going to pick on you again. What does that tell you?
Cool.
Yeah. But, like, does it tell you...
And who else?
Yeah. You know how many music blogs or outlets have existed in Nashville at one time or another? Does it tell you anything that sets us apart? No. But you go to this bottom one, right? And I like where this is at, but the thing is, this is always going to evolve, so a year from now, I might not like it. You know, we're always evolving, we're always growing. Underground Music Collective is a Nashville-based multimedia and educational platform which inspires independent artists to think like entrepreneurs. Why is that better?
Because it's more specific and it's showing what sets you apart, kind of like what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's more specific.
Yeah, it's more specific. It gives you a broader scope of what we do because we have evolved just past the blog. You know, of course, we still have that, the podcast, but also educational things just like this, right? One-on-one artist coaching. We do events as well. And we're inspiring independent artists to think like entrepreneurs by delivering these kind of messages, right? So that's what sets us apart from every other blog that might just be reviewing music or, you know, doing interviews. We're so much more. That's what sets us apart. For an artist example, top one, John Smith is a singer-songwriter from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I can't tell you how many bios I've seen like this. Anybody want to take a guess as to why that's the bad example?
It just feels very plain. There's nothing specific, nothing really sets them apart from how many other singer-songwriters aren't really have highly level in Bethlehem. None of them charter rights.
Exactly. It's exactly what Cass said before. You and everybody else, you know? What distinguishes you? What's going to make your audience want to listen to and connect with you over everyone else competing for that same market share, right? Over everyone else in that similar vein. Because artistically, genre-wise, like, it's not a whole lot of differentiation, you know, from style to style, like, you know, within a certain style, rather. But what sets us apart is who we are and how we bring that into what we do. So the good example, John Smith combines modern pop production with folk-inspired storytelling creating relatable songs which destigmatize mental health and addiction. Going back up here, why is that better?
That is better because there's a lot of specific details which once again sets them apart from the rest of the audience, and also shows like what their goal is, what they want to do with their creativity.
Exactly. Not only does it give you a glimpse into what the music's going to sound like, right? If you're a fan of Luminaire's Mumford & Sons, you might like John Smith, sonically speaking. And then, if you've also struggled with mental health, addiction, that kind of thing, or know someone who has, his message is going to resonate with you, right? So that immediately creates that connection, which then can be expanded upon. So, of course, you want to present that unique value in the way you describe yourself, but there are also a number of other ways to do that. Your live events, first of all, I like to call them live experiences because with each show you play, you should be thinking, how can I make this a unique, on-brand experience for my audience versus just another show? We have a lot of gigging musicians around here. You see a lot of people posting, I'm playing at this place, food, drinks, and great music from 8 to 11 p.m., right? We've seen that all the time. We've all been guilty. I've been guilty of that, you know? No judgment here. But like, yeah. Whereas if you're creating an experience and creating a little bit of FOMO, making it feel like something they can't miss out on, that's going to get them in the door way faster than just another night they can go see you playing at a pub, right? That's the one thing we're trying to do with the Nash Live series in Nashville. We have a studio called Helping Our Music Evolve we work out of. We've got full production, we've got lights, we've got a projection system, full audio, we've got people to run the gear, and we're letting the artists create their big stage show in an intimate setting. And what that does is it creates an experience that, frankly, even in Nashville, you can't get in any old club venue, right? And it gives the artist a proof of concept through the content that comes after that, so they can pitch that to a theater. They can pitch that to a festival like this one. Maybe they could put it on in here one day. And they can tour and take this proof of concept that we're helping them build, right? They're creating this experience. And also for us, it's getting people ready for the next one in the series. And the other key with that too is like not doing them too frequently. Because we're creating that FOMO in the sense of like, okay, there's this National Live event, I have to go. I don't know when the next one's going to be. And that last one was really cool, right? So when you can present your unique value and what you bring to the table and bake that into your live experiences, as well, of course, into your digital presence, how are you using your social media to communicate your message, your email list, which, how many people have email lists? Okay. Everyone should have an email list. It's a great way to directly communicate with your audience and create some engagement with them right off the bat. Social media, of course, we know with the algorithms, it can be a little tricky to, hit that moving goalpost, right? But with email, you've got a dedicated list of people who have signed up to hear and see your updates. They want to know about you. So build that. And I can get you in touch with a guy who's really, really good at using pay-per-click ads too to bring people into the mailing list. So let me know if you want to talk about that after the fact. And of course, all of those things, social, email, web, should really reflect the story you're telling. In addition to, hey, I'm playing this show, I'm releasing this song, I'm putting out this album, like what story you're telling and how are you using that to connect? And of course, in your everyday life, your actions, your interactions should be an accurate reflection of your VMV, of your values, mission, and vision. If your platform's peace and love, but you're cutting people off and flipping them off in traffic, how are you showing peace and love? Put your values into not only your artist platform, but really let them become a part of your life, because those two things are so intertwined. And of course, as you go through this process, you're going to have the chance, especially once you start building your email list, to collect audience data. And you can use that information to build a stronger community, a stronger ecosystem, continue the conversation. You can find out what your audience likes, what they don't like, give them more of what they do, give them less of what they don't. And you can use CRMs to track that audience and customer data. MailChimp is a really good one, as far as email is concerned. Up to 2,000 emails for free per day that you can send. There's another one called Go High Level for small businesses, which is really comprehensive. You could do your social media scheduling. You can, of course, send emails through it. You can send text campaigns. You can set up virtual communities for people to join. That's actually one thing we're building out with the UMC Academy as we speak through Go High Level. So how are you tracking that data? How are you using that to interact with your audience? How are you building lead magnets into that, sales funnels into that to take them on a journey? Let's say sign up for my mailing list and I'll give you a free download of an unreleased demo or something. That gets them in the door, and then you're starting to communicate with them. You're building this relationship with them. And then when you have a merch drop, when you drop new music, when you have an event in their area, they're already there and already part of your community, and they're going to be more inclined to make that purchase, because as independent artists, we're also entrepreneurs, right? I like to say artistpreneurs. How are you analyzing that data? Of course, to give your audience more of what they want, less of what they don't. And then what resources do you have or need to pull this off? Now, the big one that a lot of people bring up is the financial part of things, right? But often I find that the financial part is a symptom of not having the other things in place. Systems, having your CRM, having your funnels, having ways to lead people in to take the journey to make that purchase decision, to generate revenue, to help build your platform and make it stronger. And of course, as you grow and you have more of these things to manage, maybe you as the artist don't want to manage all of them, right? That's where building a team comes in. Can you hire interns? Can you get a virtual assistant? Do you have the budget to hire somebody outright? Is there something you want to delegate that somebody you know loves doing, right? Who can you hire? Who can you bring on your team? Who can you build a community with to help the rising tide raise all boats and to help this ecosystem grow? So we've been connecting with our audience, we've been building our audience, we've been measuring, we've been adjusting, we've been implementing systems, and now we're ready to start swinging for the fences. So as you pitch for opportunities, of course you want to make it easy for anybody you're pitching to, whether that's media, whether that's festivals, any potential partners. You want to make it easy for them to find everything they need to make the decision, right? And so a great way to do this, how many people have an EPK? All right, a few of you. Definitely want to have an EPK too. What is an EPK? Electronic press kit. That is a digital document, usually on a web page. Some people still go the route of making a PDF and attaching it to emails as well. But this tells the story of your artist platform. So it contains everything we've talked about so far, right? Your biographical information, your VMV, any relevant audience metrics, any notable milestones, any information about upcoming projects that you might have, right? So it's a document, it's essentially your one sheet to tell the tastemaker, hey, this is the value that I present. This is the value that I bring to the table. Got an example here. And since in the spirit of Musikfest, a local band, a couple of you might know, my good friend's Billy Bauer band. Now I will say, I wrote this bio in 2019 before I designed this course. And I need to rewrite it, and I'll tell you why I need to rewrite it. Because it's missing the VMV. It has tons of stuff about who they are and their accolades, their accomplishments, and they've done a lot of cool stuff. Continue to do cool stuff. They're playing 3 times at Musikfest. But we don't have the why in there. So while I'm up here, I need to get with Billy and Chris and get that together. But you'll see here the strong header image. Of course, you got links to the socials. You've got the bio. Of course, some strong multimedia options here as well as ways to stream and check out the music that they've released recently, right? So you want to have all these things in one place. You want to make it easy for the tastemakers to find these things so they don't have to go hunting. And we're going to get more into that later. So you've got your EPK, and now it's down to figuring out, where do I send this thing, right? Who do I pitch to? Where do I even begin? First thing I think is important to note is to know where you stand on your journey. A lot of people kind of beginning their journey, beginning their artist journey, might not know where to start, and they just kind of see the bright lights of the industry. It's like, how do I get in Billboard? How do I get in Rolling Stone? And if this is your first rodeo, taking a swing right for those opportunities, whether it's major media outlets, whether it's Bonnaroo, big time sponsors to give you $100,000, that may not garner the short-term results you like, especially if you haven't proven the concept of your platform and the value it brings. And just keep in mind, it takes patience. It takes some pretty palpable buzz building that audience like we've talked about, and sometimes a significant marketing budget to land a major opportunity. Some media opportunities, if you don't know this, they come with a price tag. The iHeart opportunities I've had, I had the option of either doing a Zoom interview for free or going into the iHeart headquarters in New York and paying couple $100 to get a social media package alongside that. And of course, that helps them cover the studio time. I took that option because it's an investment. I have all this amazing content I've been rolling out recently from my most recent appearance. And all that does is it helps bolster the platform. It helps prove the authority of me as an educator. It helps prove the authority of Underground Music Collective as an entity overall, right? So same thing for you. When it comes to that point and you have a budget, it's a wise investment to spend that with some reputable outlets. But if you're not there yet, there's good news. And the good news is there are plenty of opportunities suited for independent up-and-coming artists just like you. Whether that's on the media end, blogs, podcasts, what have you, whether it's festivals like this one that really support the local community. You get a professional at bat here, and you get the building blocks that you need to create a buzz over time. So how do you find them? Well, we all have the internet, right? And at this point, any reputable opportunity in 2024 is going to have a digital presence. So a Google search would get you started. I have Nashville Music Blog here, but if you're looking to start local and you live here, Lehigh Valley Music Blog or podcast might be the search term you use. And that'll turn up results, and you'll be able to connect with people directly, also assess whether this is the right opportunity for you. And of course, we'll get to that in a moment. Another thing you could do if you want to cast a wider net is hire a publicist. Last year, I actually hired an amazing PR firm out of Austin, Texas called Branding PR. That's the reason I got on iHeart, Music Row, like all these opportunities. And Brandy and her team had connections I didn't. They were able to put me in rooms, still put me in rooms that, I wouldn't have been able to access otherwise. Had a chance to, in June, even though we're not even currently working together, attend Forbes BLK Summit in Atlanta. Forbes. And that was an invite from Brandy. And so building that relationship there, was so important. Helped me meet so many amazing people, get so many amazing insights, which now I'm able to roll into this and bring to you, right? I will say, if you go the PR route, one thing that I wish that I had and that UMC had before doing that was the systems in place to know what to do with that attention, capture that data, and help lead people on that journey. And that's something we've been working on now. And when we re-up, I'll have that in place, so we'll be able to go further together. But that's a great route to go. Just make sure you're ready for it and you have the systems in place, because the attention's going to come, right? So make sure you're ready and you know what you're going to do with that. Have the next couple steps planned out. And then, of course, you can ask your friends. Pay attention to the moves your peers are making out there. Of course, you're seeing people get booked in places maybe you're not getting booked. You're seeing them get features maybe you're not getting. Ask for connections. Don't be afraid to ask for an intro. It's all relationships, right? And as a matter of fact, that's what we're going to talk about next. How do you build relationships with these people? Another thing I'm going to say twice, because I think it bears writing down. The quality and the frequency of the opportunities you receive are in direct correlation to the quality of your relationships in music or any industry. I'll say it again. The quality and the frequency of the opportunities you receive are in direct correlation to the quality of your relationships in music or any industry, and honestly, in life, right? So a few things to consider as you're looking to establish these relationships. What's the vibe? Do you share similar values? Go back to your VMV. Let's say, and I hate to even use this example in 2024, but if you are an activist on one side of the political spectrum and the outlet, the festival, is clearly on the other side, is that a values match for you, right? It's probably the simplest example I can think of. Can you see yourself having a good working relationship with them? Can you see yourselves growing together? Can you see yourselves coming together instead of growing apart and working against each other, right? Also, what's the quality of their work like? Not all, if you search for indie music blogs or podcasts, you know that no, we're not all created equal. And there are some that are, again, going to give you that professional at bat, and there are some that are not. In the case of those that are not, is working with them going to present you in a positive light? Is that going to help you establish yourself as a professional as you shoot higher for the bigger and bigger and bigger opportunities, right? Is that going to help you grow the groundswell? What's their following like? Is it engaged? What genres do these opportunities, do these tastemakers feature? in their opportunities. If you are a pop artist, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense for you to play a heavy metal festival, right? If you're a country artist, although the genres are melding a little more, traditionally, a hip-hop blog or podcast probably isn't the place for you, right? So even in this genre-fluid world like ours, it's important to just do that research and see, like, okay, is this opportunity going to be right for my platform? Am I going to be able to give something of value to them? And some opportunities cover it all, right? So those are always great ones to seek out. UMC, we always have. ArtsQuest always has done a great job of diversifying their programming here. But it's important to just have that understanding going in of what are the chances that this is going to be a good working relationship, right? And then once you've determined that it is, and the green flags are there, do a little more research, find out what they offer. Pitch to the specific opportunity. So let's say somebody has a really cool podcast and they're a really good interviewer. You appreciate that about what they do. You appreciate how they do it. Tell them that. Let them know that you've actually taken the time to listen and that you care about working with them specifically. These are people building a platform just like you. It may not look the same, sound the same, it might not even be music, right? But nonetheless, we're all trying to build something from zero. So the best way we can do that is consciously, is intentionally, right? And also by highlighting the value that you offer. So many times, I've seen so many pitches where it's like, okay, like feature my music. Hey, I just released a single, check it out. I'm playing the show, come to it. Like sometimes they just send me a poster or a link to something and it's like, that doesn't really build that value exchange, that relationship. Again, these are busy people you're pitching to, just like you. They've got families, lives, maybe other jobs. So how is engaging with you, how's engaging with what you're pitching to them going to be a benefit to them in exchange for the benefit that you wish to receive? Again, coming back to that idea of the rising tide raises all boats. And then make sure you ask good questions. If something's unclear after your research, reach out to somebody who might have the answer. And if you're looking for a question to ask, it's never a bad idea to ask how you can get involved, what a mutually beneficial relationship looks like to them. See how you can add value to them. Because ultimately, we need to have that exchange, that value exchange. And now for my favorite segment of Perfect Your Pitch, what not to do. There are some funny anecdotes in here. Real quick, we'll kind of breeze through it. The first what not to do is do not present your work without confidence. And I'll say this, I've probably been guilty of every single thing on this list at some point in the past. Won't ever make these mistakes again. But I've definitely been guilty of this one. And I've seen other people, I've received pitches where, somebody wasn't fully confident in what they did. One quick story, this was back in the Lehigh Valley Underground days, before we relocated to Nashville. We were based here in Bethlehem. And I got a pitch email, and I'm reading it, I'm like, all right, I'll probably give this a shot. And at the end of the email, the last sentence, the person dropped a bomb on themselves by saying, and I quote, "I think it sounds okay. Sorry if it sucks." Do you think I listened? No, because I had 10 emails waiting for me, and none of them told me their music sucked. So I listened to them, right? You have to believe in what you're doing before anyone else will. You have to believe in your dreams and yourself before anyone else will. If you don't believe in you, they won't believe in you. Whether that's fellow artists, whether that's your audience, whether that's tastemakers, whether it's mom and dad, right? You have to believe in yourself. And even if you're not where you want to be, you feel artistically, you at least have to be confident in where you are, right? Do not engage in unprofessional behavior. Be courteous, be respectful, be accommodating as much as possible. Handle rejection well. It happens in this industry. You're going to get rejected a lot. We all get rejected. I got rejected for a conference last week. It's fine. I'm going to apply to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. If you find yourself taking a rejection personally, use that as an opportunity to pause, to reflect. Might be a good time to go back and make sure that your submission's the best it can be, that it aligns with what they're looking for as well. And no matter what, if you get a rejection, don't go on social media and say bad things about the organization, the organizers themselves. I've seen that happen, and rarely, if ever, does that help your case. Don't try to be somebody else either. What works so well about Taylor Swift is that she's Taylor Swift better than anybody else can be Taylor Swift. But we've seen a lot of people trying to emulate that over the years, right? and never quite reach those same heights. And one of my favorite examples of this too is the boy bands of the 90s, right? Like you had NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, 1A, 1B. The order depends on your preference. And then with every new iteration of essentially the same thing, you had diminishing returns. 98 Degrees was pretty successful. LFO was pretty successful. O-Town had a couple hits. And then there's a bunch that were pumped out of a factory in Orlando that people don't really remember that well, right? They were trying to do the same thing. They were kept going to that same well, but there was no innovation happening there. So there's a difference between being influenced by an artist and emulating that artist. And of course, you all have your influences as artists, right? And as creatives. But take those influences, filter them through your lens and your story and your values, and make them your own. And the last thing, and we kind of touched on this before, do not give your tastemakers even more work to do. Again, busy people, lives, jobs, families, all that. Follow the guidelines to submit, include required materials to be considered, respect everyone's time, and be the artist who will go the extra mile. So, first of all, I just want to thank you for being here. I've got a couple more slides, but I just want to say thank you for coming to Perfect Your Pitch and seeing what this was about. On a personal note, this is such a full circle moment for me. 10 years ago to the day yesterday, I worked my first shift at Musikfest out at that intersection at 2nd and Founders. Today I get to stand up here. So I was overjoyed to be accepted for this conference, and I look forward to many more and helping however I can. And thank you to everybody at Arts Quest for making this what it's been, and I look forward to being back here. And again, if you're hanging out at Musikfest, come see me over on the north side. I will be there as long as I'm not playing Spider-Man. It's a busy job. It's a busy time. But yeah, just want to draw your attention up here. If you want to dive deeper, I'm happy to chat with you after. These are a couple of the folks that I've worked with as one-on-one coaching clients, and you can see they've had nice things to say. I don't need to read those. I'll let you read those yourself. But what I'm trying to do here is spark ideas, inspire people forward, give people that accountability partner, give people that inspiration to move and act and sort through their thoughts as they develop their platforms. And so these are a couple of folks that have had good experiences with that. So just wanted to throw that out there. And then I have a surprise for you as well, because this is such a special moment. I'm announcing here today that this February I'm releasing my first book. So 60 plus lessons from the creative journey. As you see, it's loaded with anecdotes, and some of them, are peppered with a dash of humor from my 11 plus years at that point building this platform that put me on this stage. So, and this applies not only to musicians, but anybody who's stepping out, anybody who's creating a thing. So $9.99, if you scan that QR code, you can pre-order the digital version now. The paperback will be coming as well. It's just Amazon kind of has certain deadlines that you can only do it within like 60 days. So I'm waiting to schedule the paperback version as well if you'd rather wait for that. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited to even dive further into the journey that I've been on. And yeah, just really, really grateful for the opportunity to have been on it this long. So excited about that. Happy to answer more questions about that as well. And with that, anybody know how we're doing on time?
2:10.
2:10. All right. We've got about 5 minutes for questions. Anybody have any questions?
So, you mentioned a lot about like being confident and like having to show yourself without doing anything to like show yourself like less than you actually are and all that. But like, what is your take on like being humble in the music industry? Because I feel like there's a difference between there's a difference between like overlooking yourself and your capabilities versus just like being humble and letting other people like explore what you do.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, right? Like, of course you want to stand up and, be confident, believe in what you're doing. At the same time, I think it helps us all to know that we are all students on this journey. None of us knows everything, and I always like to say, this is a lesson I have to add to the book, by the way. If somebody tells you they know everything, they're either naive or they're trying to sell you something. We're all learning. We're all in this process. Some of us further along than others. I don't know everything. I'm not going to stand up here telling you I know everything, but it's the understanding and the confidence in where you are and what you bring to the table right now is important, because that ultimately is what's going to present you as somebody of value to work with. However, that should always be approached respectfully and without, a sense of superiority, for sure. So.
Do you have any thoughts or advice on how to guide artists that sort of want to be the artist, create the product, but they don't want to think about it as a product, and they just kind of want to wash their hands and move on, but they still want some magical thing to happen?
Yeah, I think a couple thoughts on this. There's something to be said for art's sake, right? Like if you just want to create, as a hobby or just because it lights up your soul, it's a passion of yours, there is nothing wrong with that. More power to you. I think though, where there's a gap is the artist who just wants to create the art and wants to have those big opportunities, but doesn't really want to integrate the business aspects to it, right? Like if you don't want to, if there are certain things, within the ecosystem of building a creative platform and business that you don't want to do, that's great. That's fine. You know what your strengths are, delegate those to somebody else. But I think there's a lot of value too in at least knowing how those things work, so you know what good is. So when you do hire out, when you do outsource that, if that person's doing a good job, the value that they're bringing you, right? So like, let's say you don't want to be responsible for your own social media posting, right? Then you'd want to hire somebody who is well-versed in that, who understands the trends, who understands the algorithms, but that's going to take a little bit of education, at least on your own, so you understand the job that person is doing. Because otherwise, and I've seen this, like you're going to start spinning in circles, right? Like wondering why aren't I getting the engagement that I want? Why are my followers not growing? Like, why isn't this working? Because maybe you didn't do the legwork yourself to understand like what good is, so you knew what it was when it came to you, right? So.
And I agree with that. I want to make sure you understand, this is a friend of mine that I've known for a very long time. Brilliant artist, brilliant writer, plays all kinds of instruments, sings like unbelievable. I just can't get it through his head, like everything that you talked about here. And I hesitate to send him to somebody like yourself, who might be like a different voice, who can maybe convince him, because I don't know if I want to waste your time.
Yeah.
I see a little bit of this, in other people too, and I really think everybody that's here is putting in the time, and everybody here knows they have to put in the time. There's so many people out there that aren't putting in the time, and yet they still think something should happen.
Right. And I think too, like people are where they are on their own journey too. And there is something to be said for that. I mean, everybody here is obviously here because they want to invest in themselves, right? And they want to take that next step forward. They at least want to figure out what that next step is, right? Not everyone's there, and not everybody necessarily understands like that is such an important part of the puzzle as far as building your platform to the heights it wants to be. I mean, I'd be more than happy to speak with him, but again, to your point, like that would have to be mutual, right? Like he'd have to want to speak with me too, and it's just one of those things. It's like, there's an audience, your audience is your audience. And I think that's a big part of this too, is like, you're going to connect with certain people and your message and what you're about is going to connect with certain people. It's not going to connect with everybody. You, I, everybody here, we're not for everyone, and that's okay. We don't have to be. So, there is definitely, I mean, I do see that among independent artists. Like, I see it on Threads. Anybody on Threads here? There's a lot of complaining on Threads. Oh, why do I have to make all this content? Why do I have to serve the algorithm? Well, because that's just part of building a creative business in 2024. If you're not interested in building a business, then don't worry about it. Create art. Love what you do. Have it be your side hustle, your passion project. If you want to build a business, that's the nature of the game. And if you don't want to be the one to do that, then bring people in that can help you with the things that you're not inclined to do.
2:15.
Okay. Any other questions before we wrap? One more.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think having multiple EPKs diminishes the value? I'm thinking of like an artist who might, want to do gigs, but also maybe want to be a teaching artist. Would you recommend having one EPK that kind of translates over, or is it
Yeah, absolutely. Pitching to specific opportunities. Yeah. And I think too, like there's a larger conversation to be had here, which might be my next course, about how to build a multifaceted creative ecosystem, right? Ender Bowen, who was on this slide a couple slides ago, he's, as you see, a musician, an author, a podcaster, an aspiring compassionist. He's trying to build a community of little lights, and he's doing it through multiple means of reaching people, you know, like his blogging is actually the main driver toward his mailing list, toward his ecosystem, right? And from there, that lets people discover the other things. But if he, you know, because I know he's trying to go out and get some speaking gigs as well, like if he wants to go get those speaking gigs, he should tailor, you know, the message that he's going to be presenting on, you know, through the materials he submits. You know, it's not the same as like trying to go play a festival, right? So yeah, I mean, for the different things that you do, for your different disciplines, I would definitely have a separate pitch.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking of all being on one page, they can get lost.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much again. I'll just leave this QR up if anybody's interested in 60 plus lessons from the creative journey, and appreciate you being here.